welcome back to Death by Dragons to another tournament report. This one is from the Kings of Hearts 3 doubles. Kings of Hearts are a really nice bunch of guys who run a tournament out of a school down in Hemel Hempsted in the south of England. This was my swan song from 2nd edition, so if you're here for version 3 goodness, you are going to be very sorely disappointed. This was a version 2 doubles match. So you play with a partner, you both take a 1,000-point list. You have to be allyable, so you can't take evil with good. But apart from that, pretty much anything goes. It's a really nice place, really nice tournament, and kind of a nice goodbye to version 2 for me. So, with that said, let's have a look at the list we took. So I was playing with my very good friend Matt, who you have seen on the channel a couple of times. And so we played Ogres and Twilight Kin. Our team name was We've Had Enough of Kin Pirates. Yeah. Why pirates? Because this whole thing was themed around. So Matt's been painting ogres for a little while. Matt is an extremely good painter. He's a commissioned painter as well as just a hobbyist. And he's been painting up some ogres, and he's like, well, I really want to take my ogres, and they're all kind of they're pirate themed because they started off as allies for his Trident Realm, so they're all kind of sea themed. They're kind of ogre pirates. They're really cool. So his list was like, I've got these models that I want to play. What can you bring to balance that out? So we had a think, and this is what we came up with. So he had 2 hordes of warriors, a warlord mounted on the chariot with the Brew of Haste for a nice 18-inch charge range, a red goblin blaster because he had made a really cool model, a giant, and Nomagorok, the special warlock who just is filthy and broken. So that's pretty much what, he could have run it as a variety of different stuff, but what we decided to do was to take some filth to balance this out, right? So he's kind of bought a really nice melee core. So he's got 2 hordes of warriors who are extremely durable and punchy, a giant who's very durable, Nomagorok for heal and Bane Chant, so on and so forth, and a blaster because it's a laugh, and it's 65 points. So we bought 3 troops of gargoyles, 2 hordes of chariots, one of which was elite to go with this vicious, and a Dark Lord and Black Dragon with Blade of Slashing. So the thought behind this is there's a load of shooting and punch with the chariots, especially with one of them elite. The dragon is a dragon, so why not? And then 3 troops of gargoyles. So these are chaff, objective grabbing, and that kind of nonsense. So it's a pretty simple list, pretty much, and it just kind of it's there to add range support to the melee and kind of meat of the ogres. So that was our list. It's fair to say that quite a lot of the lists were pretty filthy because this is a farewell to 2nd edition, so why not take all the filth just before it's nerfed, right? So on to game 1. So our first game was against a combined Abyssal's Night Stalkers list. So this was Martin and Ian, who you will, if you listen to podcasts, you will know them from the Frantic Gamers podcast. So Dead Zone, it's not Dead Zone, and Martin, who I have played before and is a super nice guy as well. So quite fun. So let's have a look at their lists. So on the Abyssal side, we have 2 regiments of Succubi, a regiment of Tortured Souls. Was it a troop? I think it was a troop of Tortured Souls, not a regiment, sorry. Troop of Tortured Souls, ignore that. And a Freak with the Heart-Seeking Chant, which is gross. And an Archfiend of the Abyss, who he'd given wings to, and for reasons that no one really understood, Bark Skin. Possibly the worst spell. Then we had, on the Night Stalker side, a Legion of Bloodworms, which is just very unshakable. There's a 24-27... horde of legion of nastiness, hits on 4s, 40 attacks, a horde of scarecrows, so another stealthy block of meat, a horde of butchers who are very nice, a mind screech, and a horror to who he'd given Bane Chant and Drain Life. So apart from Barkskin, which no one understands, you can see what this list is doing. It's got, Succubi are really punchy, Tortured Souls are great chaff, the Ifrit is extremely shooty, the Archfiend is an Archfiend, and then you've got no Lightning Bolt, which I can see points wise why you'd struggle. On the other side, you've just got meat and punchy meat. This is the Mind Screech who's got fire bolts. I think he's a lot better in version 3. and then the horror, who is Surge and all the other stuff as well. So yeah, that was Suck My Worm. See what they've done there. For 2,000 points. So it's worth saying that you could nominate one inspiring character who is then very inspiring for both lists. So they increase their inspiring range and they can also inspire both lists. So on our list that was Nomogrok, and on this list it was, I think, the Archfiend. Want to say the Archfiend? Or maybe the Horror? I can't remember. It's not important. So this was the battlefield we were playing on. It had 2 height 4 forests, and then 4 pieces of blocking terrain. So the important one is this one in the middle, right? So it's it kind of divides the battlefield a little bit. And then you have 4 height 1 obstacles and this patch of difficult ground, which we agreed to be height 0, I think. Yeah. So the scenario for the first game was Control. So this is the one where you divide the board into 6 segments, like so. They are, if you control them at the end of the game, you get an objective. You get a point. If you control your opponent's central objective, then you get 2. So on to deployment. I think they won the roll for sides and chose the sides. So if we go back, they chose this bottom half here. This is the half they chose. Putting us, which is, I think, is an absolutely sound choice, because if you're on the top half of the board, this piece of terrain here is a problem for you, because you're going to have to either go one side or the other or split, and either of those choices is not great. Both boards have got these big pieces of blocking terrain here and here, so you can either, this is not big enough to fit hardly anything down. This one is slightly bigger. But you can't fit a horde down there at all. Possibly a horde of large infantry if you really squeezed it, but no one really wants to do that. So I think that's a solid choice. So the way these photos are looking the other way that photograph was taken. So on the far left, he's put his troop of tortured souls here, and this is the Efreet next to them. Then into that piece of difficult terrain, he's got his butchers and his scarecrows. He's there. So the butchers were, so Martin was playing the Night Stalkers, Ian was playing the Abyssals. So these are some Night Stalkers. So there's the butchers and the scarecrows. So they are both stealthy. So shooting stealthy stuff is rubbish anyway. Shooting the butchers is never going to happen because they're now stealthy and in cover. There's the Archfiend next to them. Really nicely painted Archfiend, I've got to say, beautiful. And next to them is the entirely disgusting Legion of Bloodworms. This was the most nauseous unit to look at. These are like fishing lures with that kind of like a sarlacc in the middle of it. This thing, gross. It was, and they're kind of all gloss. They look what not good. Obviously very good, but gross to look at. Then there's the Mind Screech, also excellently painted. And then there's the 2 regiments of Succubi, full model count. Succubi, bravo. Again, beautifully painted. So against them, so opposite the Succubi, we've got the Warlord on his chariot and some gargoyles sitting behind this big piece of difficult terrain. So the thought behind this is we just outdistance them hugely with both these units, 18 and 20-inch charges. The Mind Screech is the one we're worried about. So it's an 18-inch firebolts, quite a lot of them. But the Succubi are punchy, but we outrange them, so we can fly over behind. By the way, this is worth noting. Notice this phone in the background. So England were playing New Zealand in the rugby in the semi-finals. A lot of rugby fans at this game, and Martin is a huge rugby fan, so he was, for the first part of the game, his attention was somewhat distracted, shall we say. So then we've got our blaster just sitting out here in the back, so out of range to be shot at, because the last thing you want to happen to the blaster is getting it shot at. And then, so this is more than 6 because they've got a D6 range when they blow up in version 2. I think they are much better in version 3 again. So we just put them there. You've got your giant and some ogres sitting on a wall. So this is the blocking terrain here. This is all nice and out of range of anything. Nobody can shoot at them. That's Nomogrok in the middle with his 9-inch inspiring range. So it goes to these guys and over to these guys. These are the other warriors here. And then we've got the 2 chariot hordes. The Mantic ones are the ones with Elite. No, not PMC anymore. Obviously they are now. Check out this one. This one is though. Whoa, hey, check me out, Kino. One of the first units I ever painted, so you will not be seeing any close-up shots of them. And then right on the far right-hand flank, so against his Torture Souls and Ifrit, we've got another unit of Gargoyles with a dragon behind them. So our thought here with this deployment is that these guys are just going to tromp forwards. So he's got his Scarecrows on this side, and he's got his Bloodworms on this side. We just want to hold them off for as long as possible. Try and get the blaster into them if we can to utterly blow them up. In the meantime, we'll be shooting away at things with the chariots. And on the right-hand side, we're just going to try and put the Gargoyles into Tortured Souls and then hop the dragon over the back and blow things up. That's the idea. So turn 1. Our opponents won the turn and they went off. So Tortured Souls move forward with the Ifrit there, so he wants to be shooting us. So the idea here obviously is that if we charge him, so he's turned them so we can't fit the dragon and the Gargoyles in. And then he wants to shoot us up with the Ifrit while he holds us off with Tortured Souls, which I think is a solid tactic. These guys just trundle forward. They're stealthy. They don't care all that much about chariots shooting them. The Archfiend jumped up, so again behind this piece of terrain, so he's reasonably safe. I think we have got a bead on him with the chariots. And then the other guys trundle forward. Mid-movement there, you can see. The other guys trundled forward, and he's put one of his regiments to Succubi to face off against these guys around the corner. The other one is ready to kind of pop forward if anything happens here. A little bit nervous about the blaster, I think. So they're sitting in the woods, just happy trees off immediately, of course. And that's where we are. By this point, we are winning the rugby, just so you know. So that's their turn 1. So our turn 1, so we popped the Gargoyles up here, so they're within charge range, but the dragon is right behind. So he can shoot with the Ifrit, but not too well. So the point here was to bring up and then just try and lightning bolt the Ifrit with the dragon, which we did, and we did 1 point of damage. Check out these, right? So these are, if you listen to Frantic Gamers, Ian's taken some stick. These are his wound markers that he's made, and they are incredible. They are really pretty, quite hard to see the wounds on, and he's taken some stick for that. But of course, we were very restrained and didn't mention that every single time the wounds went on. But yeah, there, 1 wound onto the Ifrit. 4 wounds from so the chariots all shot at the Archfiend, and put 4 points of damage onto him. And then I rolled a double 6. So these are my brand new version 3 Gamers Edition wound dice, sorry, nerve dice that come with it. And I rolled a double 6 on the Ifrit, and immediately took him off. Just first turn took off his Ifrit. So that was quite fun. I don't think they found it quite as fun as I did, but there you go. That's a very blurry shot to show you that turn 2. And that's, sorry, I've censored their faces, so I'm never assured. GDPR, you're allowed to show faces anyway. But as you can see, a little bit distracted. This is Ben from Frantic Gamers who's joined in. So they're watching the rugby. The Tortured Souls charged into the Gargoyles, which is what you want to do, because why not? Pretty sure they're going to knock them off. These guys trundled forward. Oh no, so maybe only one of the chariots might have shot the Archfiend for 4 wounds. So I think I've put... I can't read the wound marker. I think it's 1 wound onto the Scarecrows. Oh, this is the horror behind them here. So they've just trundled forward. And then I'm not sure why he did this. So he charged the Archfiend into the front unit chariots, the elite chariots, I guess to stop them charging. And I guess the idea here is that we're gonna charge him, right? It's quite funny. Martin looked up for the rugby and went, "Why have you done that?" And he went, "I've done it now." So I suppose the idea here is that we are obviously going to flank here and possibly here. We're definitely going to countercharge if he doesn't kill them, and the 9 attack Archfiend is probably not going to kill a 16-18 unit. And then having done that, he's got charges with his Scarecrows and his Butchers. So I guess that's the thought behind that, but it is a little bit throwing away an extremely expensive character. So not sold on that. These guys move forward. I'm not sure if these Succubi move forward or just kind of sat there, but everything else just kind of trundled forward. What's that to show? Oh, they're right then, he surged. So he moved the scarecrows up, and then he surged them with the horror, and he surged them forward pretty far. So they're now in a position to charge next turn. Torture of Souls absolutely woofed their dice and only did 1 point of damage onto the gargoyles and didn't even waver them, so they're absolutely fine. And then, so this is onto our turn, so we countercharge with the gargoyles into the Torture of Souls. And the dragon had a line, so from here, I don't think you can see it, but let's see if I can get a shot. Nope, because I'm not good at taking photographs, apologies for that. So the dragon, obviously his line of sight comes across here, across his base, all the way down there. Had a line clipped, so that line of sight clipped here onto the butchers. So I had a flank charge onto the butchers. So again, you know, a little bit distracted because of the rugby, the more important game. So I flanked straight into the butchers with the dragon. So then we decided not to flank with these chariots because these chariots would have been hindered because they would have had to touch the woods to get in. And we didn't really need it because countercharge. So, oh, sorry, I forgot to say the Archfiend. He actually put 8 points of damage from his 9 attacks, which is loads onto the chariots, but didn't roll a wave or anything. So we countercharged the chariots, and the ogre warriors flanked him. Don't forget, he already had 4 points of damage, so even at 17-19, that's going to be hard to survive. We just moved these guys up a little. With the blaster, we just kept back. We don't want him to be shot by the Mind Screech, so we're just going to leave him there. And then, so the Warlord just stayed here because he's offering a charge possibility here. And the Gargoyles, who were next to him, just jumped over. So this, you can see the, what's it called, line of sight marker there behind them. These guys are facing the wrong way, so we've jumped them over into a space here. I'm not, you know, what he's probably going to do. In fact, what he did do was to turn the Mind Screech to try and blow him up here. But that means the Mind Screech isn't shooting something else. So he's using his monster to shoot a very, very cheap piece of chaff. So it's just a distraction tactic. And then we had a chat about what to do. So Matt wanted to just leave him here. Leave the Warlord here so that the Succubi have to keep facing down this way. Otherwise they're going to be knackered. I said, why not move the Warlord this way? Because then you're offering, if anything comes any further forward here, with the Mind Screech or the Succubi or the Bloodworms, the Warlord can then flank charge them. So in the end, I won the argument. It wasn't an argument, discussion. And the Warlord came over this way. So the chariots that weren't engaging shot 6 wounds onto the Scarecrows, which was good. And it's not funny. It's really not funny. It's quite funny. So the Gargoyles do 2 points of damage to the Succubi, 3 points of damage to the Tortured Souls, and I roll another double 6 with these brand new dice. At this point, I'm not laughing. Obviously, Ian was not happy, and he's like, "Your dice are bent. Your dice are cooked. They are broken." So I got another double 6, and the Gargoyles killed them in a single turn. I would say, and he's like that, this is going on the podcast, and I'm telling everyone you're a cheat. We rolled the dice like 20 times in a row, and they didn't roll any more double 6s. I'm like that, look. He's like, can we get a tournament organizer here? And I'm rolling them, and they're just, well, there you go. So that's the Torture Souls coming off. That's not funny. So then Matt rolls a double 6. He didn't really need it on the Archfiend. You know, ogres in the flank and chariots in the front. We did an absolute ton of damage, but we immediately rolled a third double 6 for nerve, and obliterated him. Just stupid. I mean, just stupid luck. The poor guys. How can you cope with that? How can you cope with 3 double 6 nerve rolls in a row? Crazy. Yeah, and then the dragon into the flank of the butchers. 20 attacks. I think he did about 15 wounds off those 20 attacks on 3s and 2s. And I didn't need a double 6 for that one, but they still died. So not looking great for Suck My Worm. So then, have I missed off the turn dice? I have. So, apologies. So the Scarecrows charged into the ogres because they didn't have much else to do, and they couldn't turn and get into the chariots. The Horror, who was feeling a little bit lonely, jumped behind the dragon. He's got drain life, so he can drain life him, which is legitimate. And then, as predicted, so he didn't need to have. So this was Matt's argument, was that these succubi don't need to be facing this way anymore. So they've turned around to face this way. These guys have stayed here and just faced off, and the Mind Screech has turned around like yay to firebolt into these gargoyles. They do two whole points of damage to the gargoyles, which is much less than you'd expect, but they did manage to roll the necessary 8 to take them off, and they're uninspired, so off went those gargoyles, but they've done their job. And then into our turn 3. Turn 3. We took the charges, so the gargoyles who were over there, so they turned to face after killing the tortured souls, charged into the Horror, failing to regenerate their 1 wound, and then we went double front and flank, so both chariots in and the ogres into the Scarecrows, who are not going to survive. The ogres have taken 3 points. Oh, that's right. So the ogres took 3 points of damage from the Scarecrow charge, which is about what you'd expect in a defense 5 unit. We rolled another double 6. Not on my dice, you'll notice. So 2 of these double 6s came from Matt's dice, I would like to point out. Anyway, they went pop. It's not funny, is it? And then over here, so we then took the charge. So the gargoyles that were still hovering back here, so we didn't move those gargoyles until now. They were hovering back here behind this piece of terrain. We turned them and put them 20 here. So the succubi here, and then we triple charged. So the dragon went into the flank of the bloodworms, the warriors and the giant went into the front here. So dragon here and warriors there. And we with the gargoyles here, if we bounce off these, because this is a 24-27 unit, bouncing back an inch, the giant will come to here, and the ogres will be the same, and these succubi can't then flank charge them, right? So theoretically, the worms could do something. Yeah, the worms could maybe come in. I don't know, but it protects the giant's flank from those succubi, because even at defense 5, succubi punch pretty hard. Oh, there's no bait and charm anymore, but hey. So we triple charge there. That's a close-up of the triple charge, which was extremely successful because that's a lot of attacks. The 20 in the flank from the dragon is enough, but then you've got warriors in the front. It's 18 on 3s and 2s, and the giant, it's just an unpleasant amount of damage. So they came off, and we reformed. So the giant bounced back. The warriors turned, so the succubi can come into them, but they're not going to kill them because they're defense 5, or they could go into the dragon. You choose. The gargoyles did 4 points of damage. I think that's 4. Who knows what that means? 4 points of damage on the Horror, which is fine because now he can't cast anything. And wavered him! So, continuing excellent dice rolls, but he's not got a great nerve, so that's not unexpected. On to turn 4. So at this point, it's, this is the whole battlefield at turn 4. Yeah. Bear in mind, this is control, right? So if you've got your sections of the board, let's just roughly draw those on. It's not quite that far across. I've got gargoyles here. The Horror's not going to survive long. I've got a chariot that can go here. We've got so much here. We can get into this one. All his stuff's over here. So he's got his 2 regiments of succubi and a Mind Screech. And the Horror. We didn't feel very charitable. We certainly weren't going to win sportsmanship awards after 4 double 6s. I think it was actually 5 double 6s. I might have missed a double 6 somewhere. Anyway, sorry, it's not even fair. So the Mind Screech shot at the gargoyles because it was the only thing they could really do much damage to. 3 points of damage, double 1. I mean, it's not nice, is it? Succubi chose to charge the ogres and did 5 points of damage and bounced, and then that's not looking very nice for them. So on our turn 4, so the gargoyles, so the horror couldn't quite back far enough away to be out of their charge range, so they charged back into the horror over here. These chariots just turned and made sure they were in this. So they're more damage. They've got 8 points of damage. So just made sure they're in this corner. These chariots moved up. The ogre warriors stayed here so they could claim the home segment here. Although Nomogar can hold it on his own, to be honest. And the chariots moved up to claim this segment. Sorry, it wasn't very well drawn. This segment. And then we double charged the ogre warriors and the giant into the flank of this. Was it a flank from the warriors? Oh yeah, it's a flank. Look, because they bounce and because of where the giant was being an inch, it's a flank. So it's a double flank from warriors and giant. The warlord deciding to finally take part in the battle because I told him to go into the wrong place. My fault again. Charged into the flank of the Mind Screech. The dragon went into the front of the succubi. Not going to kill them, but it's going to hold them up. And then the gargoyles. Where were those gargoyles? Oh, those are the gargoyles that were here, right? So the ones that were double wand. Just shot over here to be fine and to claim that quarter. Not that we need to. There they are. So we did 6 out of 6.6 damage out of 10 attacks, which is pretty good. And then wavered them. It doesn't even feel nice anymore. It's not, yeah. So we wavered them. I have got Fury though, so it's not that important. The Warlord did, I think that says 6 points damage onto the Mind Screech. Oh, and then we double won it in this crazy, ridiculous game. So we double won the Mind Screech, but he can't cast, so yep. The Gargoyles killed the Horror, and so that's now fine. And then on... I've already shown that, so that's fine. And so, oh, and then we killed the other succubi. So a double flank from those guys. Yeah, that's not even a question. Turn 5. So the succubi countercharge because they got Fury into the dragon. They do 7 points of damage, but don't manage. Well, he's a 17-19. So you could have got if they got double 6, but they didn't. Over here we've got all of the segments are ours. So we've got 1 point, 1 point, 2 points, 1 point. So I think the Mind Screech countercharged the Warlord, or possibly the Ogres, I can't remember anyway, but it tried some melee, not very successfully. So then we took the flank from the Warriors, and then the Giant buddied up with the Dragon into the Succubi. We kill the Mind Screech, we kill the Succubi, and won the game, unsurprisingly, with on the end of turn 5, a pretty resounding, I think it's a 19 points. So the scoring in this game in this tournament it's just win, loss, draw. So I think is there attrition? I can't even remember. But anyway, I don't think there is attrition. So it was a win plus scenario points, possibly. I can't remember. So a pretty resounding victory, nearly maximum point victory, which didn't feel very good. And Ian did an excellent job of making us feel extremely bad and like we were possibly cheating, even though we definitely weren't. So yeah, that was the end of game 1, which put us in a pretty pole position into game 2. Okay, so on to game 2. I've checked the scoring system out as a pure win-loss draw. So 5 for a win, 3 for a draw, 1 for a loss. And then any ties at the end of the tournament were resolved using scenario points, any further ties by kill points, attrition points, attrition difference. It's fair to say the first game was won. I think we played well. We did the right things, but it was won by dice. Let's be absolutely clear. It was certainly made a lot easier by dice. Second game was definitely not going to be so easy. On to game 2. So our Ogre Twilight King Force was against an Empire of Dust and Twilight King matchup. So obviously they'd won their first match as well, and this was John and Grant. Grant, who I know really well, and who is frequently on this channel telling me where I play things wrong, which is always appreciated, and John, who I played at Battle Masters and who won Battle Masters. So a quite intimidating matchup, and these were their lists. So this is called Bones, Bows, and Basusu. So Empire of Dust had a horde of enslaved guardians with the blade of slashing, a regiment of swarm, a regiment of revenant chariots, a soul snare broken, a bone giant, and an ammonite pharaoh on a royal chariot who has blizzard and the mace of crushing. So that's pretty fearsome, frankly, because you've got some range threat from the chariots and some plinking damage. You've got a swarm there, which is there to take objectives and to sit in the back or chaff if needs be. Enslaved guardians are punchy as hell. Bone giant's a nice meaty thing. It's just good. It's just a good list for 1,000 points. Twilight Kin looks awfully like mine, but slightly different. So troop of gargoyles, 2 hordes of chariots, a horde of fiends with the orcish skullpole, and an ASB with a loot of insatiable darkness. So between these two lists, you've just got, this is hard. This is a hard list, right? It's got nearly as much shooting as me, a little bit more shooting than we have. It's also got Bane Chant. Fiends are really nice and punchy. Bone Giant's great, just great. Good list, very good. Carry on. Oh, and sorry, how could I possibly forget Basusu the Vile? It's also got Basusu the Vile. God help us all. Instead of a dragon, he's gone for Basusu. Fair enough. Why wouldn't you? So this is the battlefield we're playing on. So it's got 2 height 2 hills. It's got 2 height 4 forests. 2 pieces of height 4 blocking terrain. A single wall. And a kind of giant weird bit of, I think we said height 0. Piece of difficult terrain there in the middle. So not a lot to say about that. I mean, I think both sides are pretty balanced. You've got hills on one side. Yeah. They're interesting that the board is made smaller by that piece of blocking terrain on the left, and there's that kind of channel. So this kind of channel here. Whoa, I've done the wrong thing. How exciting. This channel here is quite interesting. You can get really stuck here if you're not careful. But equally, there's enough cover here and here to make chariots kind of a little bit less effective, but we've both got chariots, so it doesn't really matter. It's going to be a chariot off. The scenario was push, so we had 2 tokens each. So push is the one, in case you don't know, where you have loot tokens. So you have a single loot token in the middle, and then you both have 2 loot tokens you can put onto your units, and if you get them over the other half, the opponent's half, they're worth 2. If they're still on your half on units, they're worth 1. So on to deployment. And I forgot to take photos of deployment, so I've mocked it up. Very excitingly. Oh, I've left some gargoyles there in the bottom right hand corner. Poor. So over here, this is the Bone Giant with the Revenant Chariots next to them. That is the Ammonite Pharaoh and the Soul Snare next to it. He's got the Enslaved Guardians in the middle with the Swarm behind them. The 2 chariots were placed, Grant's chariots were placed here into the difficult terrain. The ASB behind them. There's Basusu the Vile, and there's the Fiends. So the chariots and the giant are obviously going to speak down here. The Pharaoh is going to come up with the Soul Snare behind to drain stuff. He's going to put the Swarm's going to come up behind the Enslaved Guardians, and the chariot's going to shoot everything else. There you go. So we on the left. So what we did, we had this plan. So this is the plan. So we put all of our fast stuff over the left here. So we've got 2 troops of gargoyles with the dragon and the warlord on a chariot behind them, and this is the giant. Okay, so the plan here is we want to distract all of this with this. Okay, then whoops. So we've got the blaster in the middle. So the plan for the blaster is, because we're distracting with all of this, the blaster wants to get up in here and blow this up. Yeah. And the chariot's here, so we're going to have a chariot off. We're going to see who can shoot better. I've got elite. He hasn't, but he's got Bane Chant. So, yeah. And then we've got the gargoyles, the 2 ogre warriors, and Nomagorok over here on the right. So he put both of his tokens on his swarm. We put them on these ogre warriors, and there's 1 in the middle. So our plan is shooty, shooty, shooty. Try to win that fight. We've got gargoyles here to try and tie up Basusu. We've got 2 hordes of ogre warriors, which are going to outpunch the fiends, and get blaster in, blow all this up, get the giant in, pick up the tokens, win. Yeah, that's the plan. So let's see how we go. So turn 1. So we win the roll off, and we push forward really hard. So realistically, we pushed forward too hard here. because speed 10, speed 10, speed 10, speed 9. Yeah? Speed, I think 6 or 7 on the Bone Giant, speed 8, speed 8. So we outsped everything here, even our Giant speed 7, and we pushed way too hard. So we're inviting a charge here from the chariots because I want to hop the dragon over. Unnecessary. Didn't need to do that. We could have actually been a little bit further back. So we only, Matt realised that in a text yesterday. We didn't need to do that. There you go. The blaster just trundled forward because there's nothing that can hurt him. There's the token you can see in the middle. And we move these chariots forward. So I measured quite carefully 20 inches here. So Basusu couldn't charge my chariots. And then everything else, so these guys move forward as far as they could because we don't care if Basusu charges them because then he'll die. And we hung back with the gargoyles. So that's another shot of the same thing for no apparent reason. And then all of my show, I've moved and they're in cover. So my chariot's only managed to do 4 wounds to this chariot. And the dragon's lightning bolt does 2 wounds. I'm not going to make any comment about using tokens instead of dice. I'm going to be pleasant. 2 wounds onto the Revenant chariots. Are they called Revenant chariots? I think they are. I might have called them the wrong thing. Don't care. So 2 wounds, but didn't manage to roll anything interesting to kill them because I think they were a dash 14 or dash something. You know. Anyway, right. So onto their turn. Now, remember what I said about how carefully I measured. Definitely measured they were out of 20. It came to their turn. Grant gets out his tape measure and he goes, "Did you measure that?" And I went, "Yeah." And he went, "Looks like it's in." And I forgot to say the magic words, boys and girls. I forgot to say the magic words. Do you confirm he's out? I didn't say the words, so he didn't confirm. So I had no recourse but to let Basusu charge the shit out of me. Deepest sigh. So cock up. 2 cock-ups in turn 1. So he's shooting onto my chariots. So these guys are in the woods. You can't see the woods. It's this weird lozenge shape here. But they're in the woods. They're in cover. He doesn't need to move. Yet he puts 6 wounds on me with his chariots and wavers me turn 1. So he rolls, I think, a 10 and waves me turn 1, which is poor. Very bad news for me. And Basusu does 6 wounds onto my chariots. This is not going well as a start, but it's not unrecoverable. It's not unrecoverable. This is good. This is good. Coming up here, Fiend's out. So we're going to get these tokens, here they are, over the half immediately. So he sends these gargoyles into the giant and does 2 wounds. Brings up his so his swarm got the tokens there, they're just hanging back. He brings the Pharaoh up to shield the soul snare, so he can soul snare something. And he brings these enslaved guardians around to fight here. Over here, so I don't think there was a gargoyle troop here, so he's charged it with his chariots and he kills them in the first turn, which was an unnecessary loss for us to do, but there you go. So these were the ones our chariot was on. So where do we put the chariot? Can it remember? Might not have taken a photo. We were concentrating quite hard in this game. There you go. So yeah, so we pushed up here. So this gargoyles were here, this chariot was here. Okay. So there we go. So his gargoyles go into the giant. And he repositions his chariots like this. So he's got a bone giant, he's got chariot, so he's giving me a flank here. Deliberately, I think, to tempt me into taking it. I think to stop me flying over here or flying over here, maybe. So Basusu, yep, 6 wounds. We said that already. Right, so the soul snare does 2 wounds on the giant, and then the gargoyles do another 2 wounds on the giant, putting it up to 4. Turn 2. So I take the bait. Let's not talk about whether that's a sensible thing to do or not. I take the bait. So we decide that to get rid of these chariots immediately is great. So the warlock goes in the front, dragon goes in the side. Okay, so I'm essentially allowing his bone giant to charge my dragon because I don't care. The dragon can take that charge and then the bone giant would die as well. So that's what happens. The giant counter charges and then the blaster continues trundling up and takes the token. So we've now got 3 of the 5 tokens. Our gargoyles then charge into the chariot to stop him surging because I don't want this unit of enslaved guardians being surged over here. So far, so good. So that's where it shows you where the blaster is, because what we're trying to do is to get the blaster as far as possible, potentially up here or into the swarm even better, because the swarm will almost certainly die. The chariots would not like that. So if he's shooting the blaster, he's not shooting something else, like for example my wavered chariots. Wavered chariots stay where they are because they're in cover and they don't care. We countercharge Basusu, and then we move. So the gargoyles that were here jump all the way over here, and the two ogre hordes move to this place. So what this means is the fiends can't fit here. They would overhang, so they can't charge here. They can't fit there. They're going to have to charge the gargoyles and they'll be obliterated. Yay! And this is Nomagorok, who is just kind of offering a 9-inch Inspire to here and to here. Chariots do 5 wounds to Basusu. He doesn't care. And we kill the chariots here. So we've turned to the dragon is now offering threat that way. If he wants to charge me this bone giant, fine. We've got the ogre chariot here as well. So ogre chariot there's a large flank here, which we kind of think is okay, I think, in terms of position. The giant though completely cocks up, just like the worst. So that blue means 5, I think, and I think we roll a 3, or no, a 2. Double 1? It has to be double 1, wouldn't it? What's it? They're an 8-10. We must have double 1'd it. Must have. Because otherwise they'd be dead. Maybe they're wavered. Yeah, doesn't matter. No, definitely not wavered because they move sideways. Because then on his turn, worst of the worst. So the chariot was here, right? It's height 3. You can see over the gargoyles. It then turns. So, sorry. The chariot was here. It turns like yay. That is the worst. Like this. It goes to here. It turns and comes in here. How is that possible? I suppose it's easy actually because you just turn like this, don't you? So you're still an inch away, then you can turn and then come in here, right? Flank charge on the warlord. Giant in the front of the warlord. Leaving the dragon happy as can be, which is an interesting choice. But I guess they just really wanted to get rid of the warlord. And then the gargoyles moved sideways, and the enslaved guardians went into the giant. And then the swarm moves up. The soul snare is here. So the gargoyles are still here, but obviously they're going to soul snare the gargoyles. That's the plan. That's just showing you the same thing again. So Blaster is still here, undamaged, feeling happy. Fiends not having anything else to do, take the charge into the gargoyles. And then I thought I'd just, show you. Oh, that's right. Okay, he hadn't finished moving, so he moves the swarm this way. I'm not sure why. There must have been a reason. Seems solid. And then the soul snare obliterates the gargoyles, which is unfortunate. And Basusu, countercharging into the chariots, wavers them. So it's not going well on the right hand side. And the chariots continue to shoot into my chariots, putting them up to 10 damage, but does not roll enough to waver them or kill them. So that's at least one blessing. And then another blessing. So the flank charge from the Pharaoh and the bone giant in the front. 10 wounds onto the warlord on chariot, but double 1. There's the double 1. Lots of double 1s in this game. As crazy as the last one. By the way, how cool is this ogre on chariot? He's like riding a turtle. He's like a ninja ogre riding a turtle. It's ridiculous. Fiends obviously destroy the gargoyles and then turn like this and ready to be obliterated next turn. And the giants. Slave Guardians, the giant, he already had 4 damage, right? They only do 5 wounds to him, which is rubbish. But the warlord is out of... Actually, is the warlord out of inspiring? I'm not sure. He is out of inspiring. Let's have a look. Yeah. So this is more than 6, right? Disastrous. So it goes to 11 damage, and they roll the requisite, what is it, a 9? 10? 9. Is it 1820? Or I don't really care. Anyway, they roll enough and he dies. The giant goes. That is disastrous. It's all falling apart. Turn 3. So we take the charge here. At least we've got this, right? We've got our 2 loot tokens and we're going to get over that half. Okay. Fiends are going to die. And then we had a choice. So this is where Matt said, I think you should jump your dragon here. So the dragon could quite easily have flown here, landed next to the soul snare, and just been free and easy here. Okay, so the soul snare could have soul snared him. That's okay. But then I could have killed the swarm. I could have killed the chariots. Anyway, there's the blaster. So I didn't. I decided that I wanted to get rid of the bone giant. So we flank charge the bone giant, and the warlord counter charges the pharaoh. Okay. And then the blaster then moves even further up here. So now, if we blow up, we get these chariots, and if you roll high enough, we get the swarm as well. There is Grant pointing at something. The wavered chariots then back up. Nomogrok comes over here to inspire the ogres, and these chariots stay where they are. These ones stay here because we want to try and shoot off the other chariots. So some of them have got wounds on. I figure a good round of shooting from these are the elite chariots. Don't forget, I might be able to get rid of one of them. So that's the charge that I showed you before. And the fiends obviously explode in a giant fiendy pile, and the ogres reform like so. So now we're offering some quite unpleasant threat here to some chariots, so that's going well at least. Did I mention that he got his Bane chant off both times? I think the first time and not the second time. Anyway, he did. So yeah, the Bone Giant gets killed by the dragon, which is great. The chariot does not get killed, so I think, God knows how many wounds. Maybe it's 3, maybe it's 4. 4 wounds on the chariot. He's fine. That allows the chariot to then turn and charge into the dragon, and the enslaved guardians into this chariot. So this is now poor, and this is, I should have listened and should have gone over that way, because now he's already on 10 wounds. He's going to die. The counter charge here will likely kill the pharaoh, but then I'm going to take a dragon charge from the enslaved guardians. Boo! Not great. Not playing well. Not playing well at all. Live tape measure action there. So then the swarm have come through here, and the old soul snare has gone up here. So we chose not to blow up the blaster at that point because it was too far to get a decent amount of boom here, right? Because it's D6 range. So we said, if you want to kill this, spend some resources on it. Kill it. Go ahead. See if we get. So instead he tries to soul snare it. Does 2 points of damage and doesn't kill it. So that's great. It gives us another turn. I forgot to mention, I failed to kill the chariots last turn. That was really poor. Port rolled incredibly badly. Just having rolled well all tournament, rolled incredibly badly. I think I did another couple of wounds onto them. So he then has to, does he move? No. Yes, he does move, right, because the ogres are in his flank, right? So I haven't taken a picture of it, but he moves his chariots sideways to get out of the ogre's charge range and then shoots at my chariot. So now he's shooting on 6s. So he does 36 attacks on 6s and manages 1 point of damage. There it is. Was it 1? Who knows what they're on before? Maybe it's 2. Do I want to go back? Oh, come on then. Come on. Come with me. Let's go on a little journey. I had 10 points of damage. Right, he does 3. So rolling on 6s and 4s. He fails his main chant. He gets 3 points of damage on me. And pops them. So, chariot's down. Other one's wavered. Everything's bad. But Basusu goes into the other chariots. Double ones them. So, not everything's bad. I mean, I'm spending turn after turn trying to kill Basusu, but, it's fine. Anyway, the ogre dies to the enslaved guardians, and the dragon takes 2 points of damage from the chariots, which is enough to stop him flying. So now we've got this next turn, which is poor. Turn 4, which is this turn. So, chariots go back into Basusu and waver him. So he's got 9 points of damage and we waver him. So couldn't roll well enough to kill him. Bit of a shame, but at least he's wavered. Whoop-de-doo. So I had to choose between charging here or charging past here. So I wasn't confident the dragon would kill the chariot in one go. So I thought, you know what? Let's go into the enslaved guardian. So at least I only have to take 1 charge next turn. So the dragon goes into the enslaved guardians, puts them up to 5 points of damage. I need a double 6 to kill them, and I roll a 6 and a 5. Can't make the magic dice work. Obviously the spell has been broken. So that's not good. And there's me again, slightly closer. Ah, right, yes, no, so, right. Have we got a wide shot from last turn? Let's find a wide shot of that one. So we finally decided it's blaster time, right? So this is where the blaster was. So we turn 90 and go forward 5, right? And we're like, it's boom time, boys and girls. It's boom time. Then you roll the d6 damage in the shooting phase, the d6 range rather. Unfortunately, we rolled a 2. So it clips this unit, it clips the swarm, it doesn't hit the gargoyles, and it doesn't hit the soul snare. That's disappointing. So we blow up. Doesn't kill them, doesn't kill the chariot, it does kill the swarm, and it kills itself. So now there's 1, 2, 3 tokens just lying in our opponent's half. Unfortunately, he's got an absolute ton of units that can come and pick them up, so that's, you know, as good as you can get. He countercharges with the Enslaved Guardians into the dragon, and the Pharaoh just kind of turns around. The gargoyles pick up all the tokens, so he manages to move them so that the tokens, there was 1 here, 1 here, and 1 here. So the gargoyles pick up all the tokens on turn 4. And the Soul Snare comes over to obviously drain the dragon that the Enslaved Guardians are going to go into. I'm not feeling good. I don't know about how you're feeling. So, there is a chance that we can do something. 1 chance. Okay, so this is the only chance left in the game for us to do anything. So the reason I'm going backwards is to show you these chariots. These chariots are double wand. So, no, there is no chance. What am I doing? So the plan was that I could turn the chariot. So Basusu needs to die. If we can kill Basusu, the chariots can then turn. So he's wavered, don't forget, so he can't do anything this turn. So next turn, if we go into him and kill him, we can then turn and shoot off the gargoyles as our last shooting unit left. Unfortunately, our opponents aren't stupid and realise these. So these guys come forward because they want to try and shoot my chariots, who are on a lot of wounds. They're on 15 wounds already. Plus, he runs his standard bearer and charges these ogres because this is version 2 and individuals are really strong. He now blocks the charge from the ogres, so he's safe to do this because I can't charge. We can't charge past him. The other ogres are out of the charge range. Not looking good. So we hit Basusu and we fail to kill him again because he's been regenerating loads of wounds every single turn. He's wavered. That means I cannot turn. Oh dear. Chariot's going to come in. I don't like it. So Basusu goes off that way for reasons unspecified. Yeah, Enslaved Guardians, Soul Snare, 9 damage, or only 9 damage onto my dragon, who is a 17-19, and then he rolls the requisite 10 twice to kill him. Wop, wop, wop. Turn 5. We're really unhappy now. So we have our 2 tokens, and we're in their half. That's good. Unfortunately, the individual is still here. That's not good. And then, so we have 1 shooting character. So Nomagorok has firebolts. Okay, he has 5 firebolts. We can still kill gargoyles with Nomagorok, but he needs to run. And this is a problem because, don't forget, Basusu the Vile is down here. So Nomagorok moves at the double to here. We then go into the character, the standard bearer. There's Basusu, who, by the way, killed the chariots. Last turn. Oh, no. He didn't kill the chariots. Arrows from these chariots killed my chariots. Chariots are dead. Forgot to mention that. Kind of a critical point. Chariots are dead. Nomagorok's moved forward. And we had another discussion. I was saying, look, use your firebolts on Basusu. He's on 9 wounds. Kill him. Kill him with your firebolts. It's not a strong chance, being honest. It's on, like, because you move, it's on 5s, and then it's damaging on 5s. Or I think it's on 4s because it's piercing 1, 5s and 4s. But otherwise, Basusu's just going to turn around and disorder me. Disorder me? Nomagorok. Anyway, we went at the double. Everything's dead over here. The gargoyles have moved here. With the stuff, everything's coming over. They can just go once, and then they can go twice at the double. and then they're in the half with 3 tokens. Bad. So, as predicted, Basusu comes into Nomagorok. The chariots both turn to take charges, but just to shoot, because they can't stay out of charge range. The tokens are on this unit at this point. So that's another shot, same thing. So this is when it all goes, you know, it's been going quite badly. We've not been playing well. We've made a lot of really stupid decisions on my part, or bad measuring, and just not doing the right thing. And then we've been just outrolled consistently. Nomagorok is wavered. The undamaged Ogre Horde puts 6 damage and then rolls a waver. Not great. So we've got a wavered Ogre Horde, an unwavered Ogre Horde on 6 damage with 2 loot tokens, and a wavered Nomagorok. That's our whole army right now. I stopped playing like 2 turns ago. When the dragon died, I'm like that. Oh, I've not got anything left, so I'm just going to kind of watch, offer unhelpful advice. So what we do is something a little bit clever. So these guys drop the tokens. They drop the tokens right here. So imagine these tokens. They're there. Okay. Then they charge in. So Nomagorok. Right. So then we have to do something quite. So Nomagorok can only move backwards, and he's facing this way. Right. So he goes. He's got 1 turn because he's nimble. So he moves backwards 1.5. Because he moves 6. I think he goes backwards 3.5 maybe, and then the remaining 1.5 backwards here, right? So he's out of the way now because this is all 1 inch gap. That allows these ogres to charge in here, right? Because they've now dropped their tokens, don't forget they're here. And then these ogres move back 3 because they're wavered, landing them like this, and pick up loot tokens. So we've still got the loot tokens, right? Anyway, yeah, we thought it was clever, so that's where we end up. I say we thought it was clever. It's not really that clever. Anyway, these guys trundle forward. There's the double move over the halfway line. Everything is bad. Then the chariots take the double charge. So Basusu charges into Nomagorok. These chariots charge into these ogres. These chariots charge into these ogres. Nomagorok goes up to 11 damage and dies. These guys go up to 10 damage and are wavered. And these guys go up to 11 damage and die. So I want you to know that my head is in my hands right now. Because now not only do they have 3 tokens over the other side of the board, which is 6 points, they've got ours as well. It's fine. It's fine. Not bothered. So they thrashed us. They properly thrashed us. So, you know, hats off to John and to Grant. They outplayed us, they outrolled us. We suck. I mean, more specifically, I suck. Allowing that first turn charge on the chariots is so bad. It's so bad. And not taking the dragon out of the combat zone is stupid. You know, we just didn't play well. Both of us didn't play well, frankly, in that game. So yeah, anyway, big loss. So that was the end of game 2. Okay, on to the third and final game. This is a 3-game tournament over 1 day. So, having taken a very punishing loss, we then faced a force of undead with more Twilight Kin. Hooray! Twilight Kin. Fortunately, not more chariots. So this force was Uneven Stevens, which was Warren and Julie, who's a husband and wife team. I think they're husband and wife. I actually never asked. Unfortunately, Warren wasn't feeling very well during this battle, poor guy, but he laboured on valiantly nonetheless. So the undead force, which was Warren's, was a troop of wraiths with the Blade of Slashing, a horde of werewolves with Blessing of the Gods, a horde of wights with the Brew of Sharpness, and a Revenant King on Undead Worm with Wings, Weakness 2, Drain Life 6, and the Loot of Insatiable Darkness, or as we call it, all the things. So that's pretty punchy. Yeah, there you go. That's Undead for you. And because Undead couldn't bring any nasty cavalry, there we go. So Regiment of Reaper Guard with a Brew of Strength, 2 regiments of Dark Knights, 1 with Caterpillar, 1 with the Helm of Confidence, and a Dark Lord on Black Dragon with Drain Life 6, and Scarlet Moore's Fenulian Amulet, giving her Lightning Bolt 7, which is good. So, it's a pretty elite force. I mean, that's pretty tiny, which is what you get when you put Undead and Twilight King, I guess, in. But pretty punchy, I think. The only thing I don't like is the Reaper Guard, because I just think they are underwhelming, especially because everything else you've got is so fast, right? This is very, very fast. The slowest thing on the Undead list is the Whites, right? And they're speed 7. I think they're speed 7, or they're speed 6. Do you know what? I'm not very good at this game. I've mentioned this before. Move on. So, this is the battlefield. We had a double forest. Always like to see a double forest. We had 2 height 2 hills, 1 height 4 little house, and then 2 pieces of height. I think we had height 0 difficult terrain. We might have said flat, but I can't remember. And then to make it interesting, this many obstacles, because if you look at the little piece of difficulty, they're surrounded by fences. So he said, all right then, they're all obstacles, which is quite fun. So we were playing Pillage with 5 tokens. So you can see the tokens. Here they are. Of interest, these are all custom tokens, which is quite fun. So Warren and Judy have played Rusty Shackleford a couple of times, and Rusty, whenever he plays you, he gives you custom objective tokens that he makes because he's awesome. And I once copied Rusty because he's awesome, and made some of my own. So there's 2 of mine in there, which I gave to him in the end as well. So there you go. Isn't that lovely? Let's all have a warm, happy hug. So on to deployment. So I think they won sides. So this is facing the double forest, as you can see there. So we have over here is a This is a horde of werewolves. This is the troop of wraiths, and this is the revenant. And next to them we have one of the regiment of dark knights. This is the one with caterpillar because it's in a forest, of course. And next to them are the whites, very much punchy, 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 want to kill them extremely fast. Just to note, one of the things I was noting here, the whites aren't in cover, and everything's in a line. All right, so you're facing shooting. This is something to think about. Okay, the werewolves are off at the side here. If you look at the battlefield, there's a great big hill, so that's providing cover. But so that's probably a safe bet. But the whites are actually, there wasn't enough room for them. I'd have been tempted to put them behind, just because they're the punchiest unit. We're going to want to shoot them. Just a thought. And then the big gap in the middle, because there was a big gap in the terrain. As you can see, there's a big gap here. So thinking about cover, which is sensible. So right on the other side, you've got the dragon with his amulet. That is sorry for the blurry photo, that's the Reaper Guard sitting in the field. And right over here on the right is the Helm of Confidence Dark Knights. So yeah, that's how they deployed. Then on our side, so opposite those guys, so this is this troop, these guys here. We've got, I think that's it. We just put gargoyles and the dragon. And the thought here was we were going to dance. So our strategy was we're just going to shove these as far forward as possible. Sacrifice the gargoyles and then just jump around with the dragon and distract them for as long as possible. Because in the middle, right in the middle of the field, check out my bent spear. Anyway, I think one of them actually lost an arm at some point. I'm not even sure what happened to that arm. I'm really done with chariots though, as is most of the entire playing population. So both sets of chariots. These guys are the elite ones. A slight interesting fact here. Notice how this bar here is slightly wobbly compared to this shiny bar. That's because this chariot is 100% made from green stuff. Because when you buy a pack of chariots, you get 3 chariots, right? And these chariots are, I mean, aesthetics aside, which I'm not a fan of, they're really hard to put together, like super mega difficult to put together. And I didn't want to buy another 3 chariots because they're super expensive. So I got some blue stuff and I cloned a chariot, which I'm quite proud of because you can't really tell apart from the thing I couldn't make them smooth. Also couldn't be bothered. Anyway, small pop fact. And then so next to them, apologies for these bases, but while nice looking, this terrain was impossible. So Matt's models, his ogres, they're all like Blood Bowl and GW Metal ogres. They're really hard and really heavy. So really heavy. And we couldn't balance them on this field without them all falling off. So this is the giant. This is a horde of ogres, and this is a horde of ogres. It's just showing where they are, right? And these are the things holding. We even had a dice to hold up these, these wooden space fillers. Gargoyles behind them, and there's Nomagaruk hiding behind the giant. A blurry photo. Hi. The reason he's here is because 9 inches, right? So it covers for inspiring because he's the leader. That's the blaster. So there's no shooting on this side, so we weren't really worried. So the blaster is right next to the other troop of gargoyles. This is my troop of gargoyles. Do you like them? It's totally PMC, by the way, because look, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They definitely count. They definitely count. Anyway, so behind the gargoyles is the warlord, who's just chilling on to turn 1. So we won turn 1 and we took it. Now, these first couple of turns, my photos are really sketchy. Actually, a lot of my photos in this game are sketchy. I'm not quite sure why. I think it's because I suck. Anyway, so we realised that there was nothing really could shoot us on that side because the only shooting they've got is drain life. So we just pushed forward, really. So the gargoyles, the ogre, and the blaster here. So the plan is to, again, distract and confuse because he's got his fastest unit, the werewolves there, apart from the dragon, which he's not going to charge things with. So we push things forward, hoping to bait them out, and then we're going to try and blow them up with a blaster. And then the warriors just move to the front of the field. Apologies for the bases, with the gargoyles behind them. And we just sat there because we thought, you know what, we could probably take a charge. Come on, bring it. Anything that comes up, we'll chaff them with the gargoyles. Whatever's left can charge an ogre and then die. And that's the giant. We did replace them with models later, by the way. You're not going to be looking at bases the entire game. There's Nomogrok, and we just push the chariots forward an inch each because we're going to shoot off the whites. Because we don't like whites, they are terrifying. Over here, we continue with the plan. I think we put the ogres back with us by the time I took this picture, so hence the bases have teleported. So we pushed forward the gargoyles, pushed forward the dragon, just 10 because I want to start lightning bolting stuff. And yeah, so then on, so I think I lightning bolted, 3 wounds onto the cav. I think didn't take a picture. So on their turn, they pushed forward. These are the knights and the Reaper Guard. The dragon is over there somewhere. Which is kind of exactly what I wanted to do. You notice the gargoyles are now gone because the dragon with Lightning Bolt 7 has done 3 points of damage and blown them up. That's absolutely fine for me because the dragon is facing like... Oh, actually, I can draw off the screen. It's about here, right? Which is great for me because I can now fly 20 to here. So I can fly straight forward and in fact just turn sideways like this. And I'm good. So something to think about if you've got a flyer, don't let it hop behind you. In fact, I don't take a photo of that move as well next turn. So oh look, there's the dragon. Hi. So on this side, they pushed everything forward. So a little bit cautiously with the werewolves. I don't think they needed to be honest, because there's nothing really. I mean, the warlord's all right, but actually, what you could have done is if you push the werewolves forward first, further, and then had the what are they called, wraiths here. Then we're unlikely to have charged in with the warlord and the gargoyles because then they could have got flanked. Maybe just a thought. I don't know. Everything else has moved up. You can see our first round of shooting put 6 wounds onto the whites already. So that was good. So turn 2. We continue. So again, apologies for not taking a lot of screenshots, but so the ogres are still on this field. The field's like this. It feels like this, right? And these are the 2 troops, hordes of ogres. So we just shoved forward, carried on with the plan. So the gargoyles pushed forward because now the Dark Knights are going to have to charge them. Yeah, and then the giants here ready to flank. Shooting from the chariots, really rolled well. And I rolled a 7 on the nerve, and the whites are gone. So that was the main worry on that side. It disappeared, so it's good. So then on their and then on the other side, the dragon just jumped over, as I previously showed you. So then on their turn, so the werewolves realizing that there was not a lot to do. So I think what happened to the? Oh, there they are. That's right. So on our turn, so you can see what I showed you what we did on this side, but we just the warlord kind of moved to here. Move back a little bit, and the gargoyles also move back. So we just kind of shuffled ourselves back a little bit. It's out charge range of the werewolves. But the blaster just went, all right then, and just jumped all the way forward because there's no shooting, right? Apart from drain life. So what they did on their turn was they charged the giant with their Dark Knights. The giants, these guys charging, this is where the giant is, okay? Because they didn't have anything else they could do. So they ignored the gargoyles that were here. And then they flew the wraiths over here to get a flank surge onto the ogres. We had seen that could happen, but actually we weren't that worried because it's 12 attacks, right? And so it's going to be 24 attacks, but it's on 5s because they're going to go over this obstacle. So 24 on 5s and 5s because there's no crushing. It's very survivable for an ogre horde. So we actually weren't that worried about it. So he's flown his king on Worm, Revenant King here to do the surge. And he gets that surge, by the way, and bounces. So I didn't take a picture of it, but they end up here, bounced. Okay. So over here, so I'd flown my dragon over. So realizing they're a little bit stuck, the Reaper Guard turned around. So this is facing their edge. So the Reaper Guard just turned around. So they kind of went, whoops, turn around. The Knights, not wanting to be in this fight, decided to come down. So they moved down here with their 3 wounds from the early lightning bolt to try and take off the chariots. And then the dragon jumped up in front and started lightning bolting me. Now this is a slight problem for me because they've got more lightning bolt and drain life on this dragon, and actually they're going to win that fight in the long term. So I need the dragon to survive long enough for me to be able to shoot them off, and then my job is done and I can go. So, lightning bolt 4 wounds onto the dragon, but no wave or anything, which is fine because next turn I'm just going to jump right behind them again and do the same thing. So Knights into the giant. I don't know how many wounds he took. I think it was quite a few. I think it was like 11, but he didn't get wave or anything. So turn 3. Okay, so here the Warlord charged into the werewolves, and the gargoyles kind of jumped over the top and faced down this way to offer some nasty threat. And then we blew up the these ogres countercharged into the wraiths, and then over here we triple charged. So the gargoyles that were sitting there flanked, so they bounced off the giant. I don't know where his damage is, but he definitely had 11 damage. So flank attack and 2 fronts. That's not going to look good for those knights. And then we decided to blow up the blaster. That's just showing what I did. So as before, I said just jumped over and faced this way because we're going to get rid of these guys. So lightning bolt and lots of chariots are going to shoot off those knights. Right. So then we decided to blow up the blaster. So if you can see here, the blaster is here. Okay. So this is the perfect place for a blaster to be because you've got a worm here and you've got the wraiths here. But we hadn't measured the movement quite right, so we blew up the blaster and then rolled a 5 for its blast radius, and if you imagine a 5 takes it to about here, so it's like, oh whoops. So I can't, from memory, I think we can look in a minute, but we got 5 points of damage onto the dragon, 6 points of damage onto the wraiths, who are defense 6, so piercing 4 blast is great, and 7 points of damage onto our own ogres. Whoopsie daisy. But pretty funny. Really enjoyed playing with the blaster. There you go, there's the 7 damage. Oh, sorry, it's 5 points damage onto those guys. There you go. And 5 points, so it's 5, no, 6, yeah. 6 onto the dragon, 5 onto the wraiths, and 7 onto our own horde. Hilarious. So that is a live action shot of the Dark Knights being taken off the board, because both chariots unloaded and lightning bolt, and they just could not survive. Yay! So then the Warlord charged into the werewolves. Charged into the werewolves. Did 4 points damage, but we rolled another double 6, wavering them, which was extremely lucky. And to add to their 5 wounds, another 3 from the ogres, and we killed them, which was lucky. Well, it's not that lucky; they were dash 12, so you know. And that's a live action shot of the other Dark Knights being taken off, so it's not looking good for the Undead Twilight Kin mix. We unfortunately outranged them. We had a lot more shooting. It's just, yeah. So we reformed like this. So the giant with his 11 wounds, which are around somewhere, turned to face this way because he wants to go that away. The ogres want to go this away, and the gargoyles want to just come and sit on this token forever. So yeah, so the wavered werewolves backed up, because they couldn't really do anything else. So that's what he did. And then, so he didn't want to take a rear charge here. So he backed up his flying worm because he wants to drain life the gargoyles and kill them. So everything turned around because they're now chasing my flyer all the time, which is not a place you want to be. Everything turned around, like yay. Lightning Bolt the dragon took me up to 5 points. So you can see this is a battle I am not going to win. I cannot out Lightning Bolt this dragon because it's got Lightning Bolt 7 and I've got Lightning Bolt 5 and it's already started and I haven't. But that's fine. That was my plan. So yeah, the gargoyles took 4 points damage from the drain life. You can see there's the one left. Or is there any more left? I don't know. Anyway, I think you might have healed something else. Whatever. They died. Goodbye, gargoyles. Turn 4. So turn 4 now looks like this. So on our turn 4, the warlord was here and these werewolves. But realistically, the werewolves are probably going to survive another werewolf charge, another warlord charge. So instead, we charged into the worm over here because we wanted to keep it busy. It's got a lot of nasty spells, quite unpleasant. So the ogres who had killed the knights have gone double here because that's outside of the arc of these werewolves, and these guys who killed the wraiths just backed up 3. So that means that this distance is more than 18. So the werewolves are a little bit hamstrung. There's nothing for them to charge next turn, but we still need to deal with them. Meantime, there they are. There's 11 wounds. The giant is meandering over, and I have done it annoyingly again. I've jumped behind because now we're going to take care of these guys in the same manner. And we do. So a double chariot. So one of them was in cover this time because of the hill, but one of them was not. And the lightning bolt from the dragon puts an obscene amount of damage onto the Reaper Guard. 12 altogether and takes them off the board, leaving the dragon on its own. So my job now is done, and there's a giant coming to help. So 5 points damage onto the worm, which is not enough to do anything, but it definitely... Oh, it's 5 on top of, I think, the 1 or 2 it already had, right? So actually it's probably just 1 or 2 points of damage from the warlord, but it's enough to stop him casting and flying, so that's good. And then on Warren and Julie's turn, I think this was a really sensible move. So the dragon's here, right? It was here before, and it was going, right, this isn't good. I've got a dragon there that I can probably kill, but when I do, I've got a giant here. This isn't great. This is not where I want to be. So it literally turned once and went, whee, 20 down the board, which was very, very sensible. Although it is going to get charioted next turn. Possibly, although we are starting to think about objectives. So, and then in werewolves, werewolf land, realizing that it's facing off against 2 ogre hordes, and that's not great, they simply came up here and hid. So literally hiding behind a hill because everyone is height 2. No one can see over this hill. So at this point, no one can see anyone. But these guys are nimble, so they've kind of got the advantage in terms of being able to dodge around. Turn 5. So both chariots unloaded onto the dragon and put it onto 7 damage. Not enough though. Then we took these gargoyles were hiding in the woods on that objective, but they could see the dragon. So we thought let's try and smash him. So flank charge from the gargoyles, front from the warlord. The warlord took some damage, I think, from the dragon. I didn't take a photo of it. Sorry. But only 3 points of damage. I think the gargoyles did nothing. They did literally nothing. So 20 attacks on 5s and 5s. It's not unexpected to do nothing, but a little bit frustrating. So he's up to 8 points damage, but again, no waver. I can't waver them, can we? Oh no, you can waver there. I think in version 2, can't you? Anyway. And then their dragon then flew onto the objective that we had been guarding. So they now have an objective and they're in cover. Then the werewolves took a... Oh, right, and these warriors had moved up here. So don't forget the werewolves were there, right? Let's see if we can take... No, there's no picture of it. They were here, right? So these guys moved up. These guys moved up. The werewolves could see the gargoyles. No, could see the warlord because they turned. Anyway, I think. Yeah. So they were here. So they could see the rear of the warlord. So we sacrificed the warlord. He's on, well, that's after damage, but he was on a lot of damage already from being chomped a few times. So we said, right, let's sacrifice him and kill the werewolves. So they took the bait. Werewolves went into the rear of the warlord, putting up to 19 damage and utterly destroyed him. Werewolves then turned to face this way. Right, so this was lightning bolt onto these other ogres. We took 3 points of damage, but they're okay. Oh, was it 15 points? I don't even know. Don't know what's going on anymore, frankly. It's late. I'm tired. I'm starting to show off. Right, turn 6. So we took the front charge and the rear charge into the werewolves just to finish them off. Here's Nomagorok to, I don't know what he's doing. I think he Bane chanted is what he did. But note that he is just, so this is the charge arc of the dragon, so he's just outside of the charge arc, but really critically, he's within 3 of the token. She is Nomagorok a lad or a lady? Who knows? So this objective is now contested, so this drag is worth nothing to anyone. And over here we, so previously we'd moved the chariots, which is why we did such poor damage onto the dragon, because they were just outside of the chart, out of the, when the dragon came 20 over here, it was outside of 24, outside of 24, so we had to move the chariots forward, and this one came up and turned because I want to back him onto this. So turn 6, this chariot backs up to be within 3, and this chariot is also an objective here, and shoots. The giant has now moved forward and isn't on this objective, so we're happy with those. The dragon shoots over here, and we try to shoot 7 Shades of Hell out of the dragon and fail. So, moved in cover, so we shoot on 6s, the 5 lightning bolt anyway. So, dragon's only on 5 wounds after the... Oh, is it a drain life last? I don't think it was a drain life. What happened to the wounds before? Did we do any wounds this one? I don't know what's going on anymore. I mentioned that previously, right? So over here, so the werewolves died. We turned around. Here's the other dude. So we're sitting on this objective quite happily as well. And then I thought this was, I think they were thinking about turn 7 here, and I'm not sure why. I'd have probably charged this lad into Nomagorok. And probably, well, we not necessarily killed him, but on the bounce, you'd have had 2 to 1, so you'd at least got 1 objective, right? But then turn 7, it would have been Squishy Town. It would have been utter Squishy Town. But over here, you're not doing anything. There's literally no point in being there, right? But anyway, so they charged the gargoyles. I think they killed them, possibly. Well, there's a spoiler. So yeah, no turn 7, so a very conclusive victory, which we were quite pleased with. So we had, if you look at all the tokens we had 1, 2, 3. This one was worth nothing to anyone, so 0, and 4. So of the possible 5, we had 4. So yeah, that was the end of game 3. So our total points, so it's 3 for a win and 1 for a loss. We had 11 points overall. So let's go on to talk about a wrap up of the tournament. So these are some of the armies on display. And I want to talk about this because the paint quality was really, really nice, actually, really high. But you'll notice as we go through the slideshow, there's not many armies on display. So people, this being the UK, there's no paint awards, right? There's no paint scoring. There are paint awards. So you can enter your army for the overall painting award, and this is reasonably unusual. And there was a 3rd, 2nd, and 1st, but there is no paint scoring, and the quality has got really high. So this is the army that won. This is Rusty's. He's a Rusty Shackleford, his army. So the painting quality was so high that not most people, but several people went, I'm just not going to bother because the paint quality is so high. I'm not going to win. And that's kind of my argument for there being paint scoring. Cap it by all means, but make it contribute. Because actually, I didn't put my army out. I just put my dragon out because I think my dragon's quite nicely painted, but everything else is pretty poor. And I kind of went, well, there's no point in me putting stuff out because I'm not going to win. So why would I enter it for judging? It's silly. And my stuff's not actually very nicely painted. So I felt that was a bit sad because there were some armies that weren't bad, but they just didn't put them out because, not going to win anyway. The tournament overall, incredibly well organised. So if you haven't been to the Kings of Herts tournaments and you're within reach of them, heartily recommend it because they are just incredibly slick. Really, 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 really nicely run. Everything went to time. There was food, which we pre-ordered. So everything was really good. It was a doubles tournament. And how do I feel about doubles? So I like doubles. I like the idea of doubles. In this particular, I hated my list, right? So let's talk about things that I liked first. I loved playing with Matt. So Matt, who's been on my battle reports before, is just one of the nicest humans I've ever met. He is a super cool guy. He is super clever. He's an amazing painter and a great strategist. So Who knows what that word is? He's very strategic, so he's really good to play with, and I really enjoyed playing with him. But as we were playing, I realised how much I hated the list that I took, which really, in the end, it kind of detracted from the fun for me because actually, I didn't have anything to do. This kind of big blocks of static shooting is very dull to play because basically you just roll some dice and then it's somebody else's turn. Oh, I'm going to move my dragon around a bit. But actually, I was kind of like, not really that wild about this army. So that was a bit of a downer on me. And that's my fault because I could have taken something else. But I think the other reason I was kind of a little bit, and maybe it's just, but the doubles up for me, I don't know. So there's something about me as a person is that I overthink things a lot. Maybe I'm just a little bit anxious, I don't know. But if I make a mistake, I feel, if it's me that made a mistake, that's fine. But I felt really badly like I let Matt down. Like I really let him down. Yeah, the list was fine. Boring to play or not. But, leaving my chariots, for example, within range of positions, that second game, I felt like I lost it. And I felt really, really, really guilty. This tournament, it doesn't count towards anything. It doesn't count towards anything at all. So it's not important in terms of overall things. But you want to do your best for your partner, don't you, really? And Matt absolutely didn't judge me. And he was like, it is absolutely fine. You don't have to worry about it. I just felt terrible. And that kind of left me feeling a little bit sour because I was like, I've let the team down. Maybe I should just get some counselling. I'm using my channel now as real life therapy. But I didn't like letting my teammate down, especially because he's such a good mate and such a nice guy. So there was that. Otherwise, though, great, really nice people, lovely people at this tournament. I really enjoyed all of our opponents, even Ian, who said that I was cheap. That's fine, not bothered. Otherwise really good. So overall, in terms of scores, so there were 2 teams that didn't lose. Right, so the team that won was the team that beat us in the second. So the Abyss, Twilight Kin and what were they? Dredge it from my memory. Empire of Dust. So that team thrashed everyone and came first. And then I can't remember who came second, but Rusty's. So this team with the Abyssal Dwarves and his partner, who I can't remember. I'm really sorry. We didn't play you. Got more scenario points than we did, so we lost by 5 scenario points. So realistically, to have come third, we would have need to held on to the loot tokens in the second game and got all 5 of the ones in the third game, and then we would have been tied. And even then, they had way more attrition than us, so we came 4th by quite some distance. But that's nice. I think it's the first time we played together. And our force was a little bit hamstrung because we took ogres and we're like, well, these are the models we like, which I think is an absolutely solid and justified reason to take them. So no complaints from me whatsoever. Good time was had by all. So that's the end of the battle report. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time on Death by Dragons.